All right, we're back. We are kind of live. We're recording on a Sunday. So Georgia wins 42, or was it 42-40, or was it 44-42?
44-42.
Anyway, 8 overtimes to beat Tech. I was right on Georgia's number. I said 42. I was pretty close. Um, anyway, uh, to put it up in all one word, I would say ugly.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I would absolutely, agree. Glad we came away with the win. At the end of the day, that's the only thing that's going to matter, according to the CFP. If you can read the tea leaves. But I'm glad Georgia won, and I don't want to be a negative Nancy, but my goodness gracious, what are we doing with all the resources, the best coaching staff, all the quality control people? Just everything. And I give Brick Key a lot of credit. Kirby said this, and he's turned that program around. But there is no reason that we should be going to 8 overtimes to beat Tech. None at home
With
at
the talent that
7:30
we
at
have.
night. Huh?
With the talent that we have.
Yeah, there's no excuse. So glad we won, but it's almost bittersweet, I guess would be the word, because this Georgia team, hey, glad we're going to the SEC championship. Glad we're looking like we're going to go to the playoffs. Maybe we'll talk about that. I'm not 100% convinced, as everybody else seems to
I'm
be, if
not
we
even.
lose this. But all that's good. But we have to be honest about what we're seeing. This Georgia team does not. If you had a thing up of what looks different, like those tests,
Yeah.
this one would look different. This team would look different.
I would probably go out and say this is the worst Georgia team Kirby's had since 2016.
His first year,
Yeah.
yeah, and the most flawed all the way around, right?
And
The
2019.
discrepancy between what you're seeing and the talent is what the biggest disappointment is to me.
Yeah, no, and I'm with you. I mean, 2019 team wasn't this. I mean, they were inept offensively, but defensively pretty good. 2020, that was a weird year. A lot of things up and down, but that team was consistent, to say the least. This team inconsistent. The problems that have I guess they're consistent in one way. The problems that plagued them at the beginning of the season have plagued them
Yeah.
now at the end of 12 game season. So you know, I guess let's get into the Tech game. For me, my initial thoughts, I think both of us knew that Tech was going to play hard in this game. This is really what they live for. This is all that they have. And they upset Miami, who's extremely overrated, as we saw when they lost to Syracuse Saturday. But I thought Georgia would really put their best foot forward, knowing that this team is willing to do anything it takes to win. And again, we talk about slow starts. The whole first half, terrible first half. Probably
Yeah.
the worst it's been all season outside of the Alabama game.
Yeah. No, totally agree. I mean, that's the thing. It seems like I don't know if I'm being unfair because I don't know what's in the kids' heads. I'm sure they're preparing hard, but it almost seems like they're surprised that everybody they play, they're going to get their best game. If they can
Yeah.
pick off Georgia, that's a feather in their cap, especially Tech. And again, why are we going to think anything in the future is going to happen different than the past when there's so much evidence that it's not? I mean, they're a slow starting team. And it's not only the players. I mean, we can talk about specifics, but it almost seems like on offense, and maybe it's the execution. I'm not smart enough to know. It seems like Bobo calls two different games a lot of times. And so a lot of the drop passes that creates the negative mojo with Carson and the body language, you can't really blame him for, man. We've got receivers, and I hate to call out young people, but good gosh, catch the ball. That's what you're a receiver, man. And tuck the ball away. Don't I mean Dominic Lovick and Arian Smith. I mean, I get it. Dominic Lovick caught 2 touchdown passes, so I'm glad for that. But all the little things is what's going to end up costing you, and you gotta come up with some of those catches, man. It's
Yeah.
not just that, but anyway.
Well, that's offensive, and I think we'll move over to the defense in a minute. But that's the thing that bothers me the most. Bobo really didn't change anything. It was the offense's inability. Like Dylan Bell dropped a big pass that should have been caught. That would have extended the second drive or the third drive. I can't remember. Arian Smith on the opening drive that should have been caught. There's just way too many drops, and if Georgia, does anything in those first couple of drives, it's a completely different ball game.
Ball game. Hey, I go back to it. Kirby was like, hey, against Auburn, I think, disappointed the crowd. It's a lot to ask the crowd. You put that product out on the field, it's hard to keep the crowd. I mean, I give them credit. Huh?
The crowd, this game was ready to go.
Yeah, they were ready to go. You gave them nothing. And I give the crowd a lot of credit for hanging around because this team, when they're not going right, it is a hard watch, man. And it was a death by 1,000 cuts with the way Tech was limiting our possessions, just running that same play over and over that we could not stop. We got gutted all night long, and they were out. And Kirby said it. And you watch you get out physical, man. I don't know how that happens or why. And you and I've talked about it. Offensive and defensive line, yeah, it helps to be 6'3" and 310 pounds and be able to run a 4.6 40. But at the end of the day, a lot of that is want to desire. And I just don't know if maybe I'm wrong, but I just don't know if I see that consistently.
Yeah, and you only see it in the second half. Now, let's talk about defense. Buster Faulkner, he has diced us up 2 years in a row now. If, we decide that there needs to be a change, or if, Mike Bobo decides that he wants to go and get a better gig, he can do that. I think Buster Faulkner needs to be the first phone call and needs to have a blank check. I mean, he's killed us every single time we played him. So credit to him. I mean, I don't know. I thought it was pretty, I don't know what the word I'm looking for is, but creative play calling that kept Georgia on its heels all night and really he was coaching around Schumann and Kirby all night. Problem is, you can get guys in the good position and give them the best play to play against, but they got to tackle. And again, same issues I've been plaguing this team all year show up again on the first play. Yeah. Had Haynes wrapped up in the backfield for like a 1 or 2 yard loss, and he gets out of it
yards later.
4 yards on the first play.
No, you're exactly right. Couple things. I would say that Georgia got out coached about 3.5 quarters of this game, in my humble opinion. Especially Buster Faulkner had a plan, executed the plan to perfection. So I give him a lot of credit, and I'm with you. I think he's a damn good offensive coordinator. The thing that I find interesting, if you watch his offenses, you watch Munkin, how you can get a defense and this eye discipline, right? It's not only the eye candy with the shifts and the motions, but it's the flow of the whole play is going one way and then you bust it out the other. You've got defenses running all over the field and not knowing where the play is coming from. So I just think he's a good offensive coordinator and they had a good plan, and I think we got out coached, pure and simple. And that, a couple times this year, I thought that's happened, to be quite honest with you. But, it's going to happen. There's good coaches on the other team too, and they got good plans. They're putting together, like we talked about, they're putting together the best game plan to go against Georgia. So We should be expecting that at this point.
And Haynes King played a hell of a game. He gritted it out. I mean, that guy's tough, and I know I think he's a senior. I hope to never see him again. He's a hell of a guy. He'll never be any good in the NFL, but man,
good college quarterback. Yeah, no, I do too. Good college quarterback, no doubt. And I know if we've been being honest, people have been banging on. I'm going to give 2 shout outs. Chaz Chambliss played a hell of a game. He had 2 monumental plays that I can think of, but he just played a good game all the way around. And then Dirty Dan Jackson, I'm telling you. So there's something to be said, a la breaking news, Humphrey leaving, about guys that are willing to commit to the process, go through all the ups and downs, and be able to deliver. I give those 2 guys a ton of credit, man. They played their brains out.
Dan Jackson saved that. I mean, saved Georgia's season.
Yes.
If it wasn't for that turnover, I don't know what the outcome is. I didn't give up. Someone else on this.
Well, I did. This team's frustrated me all year, man. I've watched a lot of football and over the years, and this team, they just frustrate me because I know how talented they are, and I just, and I thought whenever it was 6 minutes to go, and we were down 13 or 27-13.
Yeah.
I admit it. I gave up. So did a lot of people.
Yeah. Well, not me.
Not you.
I can't. There's just not a world where Tech beats Georgia. I don't want to live in that world. It doesn't exist. And I was more in disbelief that it was happening. And that's why I didn't give up, because I kept saying that the score is going to have to change. Something's got to change. And it did. Also, we ragged on Carson Beck, and I know I told you this earlier today. Obviously, the viewers don't know this, but they might. Carson Beck leads the league SEC in touchdown passes. Also leads it in interceptions. But that just tells you if the wide receivers were half as confident as they are, he'd be putting up video game numbers, and we'd be talking about Heisman, Georgia, on its way to a first-round bye. Everything would be going great for us right now.
Well, I'm gonna just tell you, people they may blame Carson Beck and all this other stuff, but to me, I think we put too much on the guy. We cannot consistently run the ball. That's on offensive line. That's on play calling. We haven't been, and that takes some of the pressure off Carson Beck. I think he's been unsure in the pocket for a lot of the season. I think he's starting to feel a little bit better and about trusting the pocket a little bit more. If he has time and he stays on rhythm, he's a good quarterback. And then you couple all those things, problems with the offensive line, no running game, and then receivers that can't catch. I mean, if we all want to dump it on Carson Beck, okay, I get that. He's the quarterback, but there's problems in this offense way beyond Carson Beck. I do think he gets, his body language. He needs to work on that. He's a leader of the offense for sure, and one of the leaders of the team. He's got to work on that. And I know he says he gets frustrated, and I don't blame him, man. I don't blame him with these receivers. That's got to be terrible. You know how hard every inch is, to get in the SEC, and then to throw it out there right in their face mask and they drop it. It's got to be deflating, to say the least.
Yeah, I mean, it's a problem, but I don't know. I guess it's just different ways. But instead of moping on the sideline and carrying your hat, hanging your head around, Tate Ratledge, whenever he went over there and got into Carson Beck's face, that's leadership. Not yell at guys. Be like, hey, we're good. Just keep fighting. You don't see that from Carson. That's the one critique that I have of him. Also, on the end around with Dylan Bell, you got to block, bro. Just, put a shoulder out there. Just don't stand there in the guy's way.
You and I have talked about this. I give a quarterback a pass. He's got bigger. We need him for a lot longer. He get busted up on throwing a block on a I don't know, I'm not insignificant, but almost insignificant play. But to go back to what you're talking about, used to be wide receivers on Georgia, and this is what I'm going to say, and it's going to be a blanket statement. If you didn't block, you didn't get the rock. And I saw a lot of looking around and about half-ass efforts on the edges with our wide receivers blocking the other night.
Yeah.
And I don't, that again, I go back to desire, want to. I mean, Georgia just think they're going to roll the ball out and teams are going to fall to their knees. I don't know if that's what's going on with this team. There's some of that because I saw some effort plays that have got to get better.
Yeah, effort plays on defense as well. I mean, there's certain guys that are unwilling to tackle or look lost out there. I mean, it's got especially next week.
We got some problems at cornerback, man.
Well, we took care of one problem. Thanks, TikTok boy. But we'll see. Overall theme, and we'll see what happens Saturday. But why aren't we playing Scobie White, Nitro Tuggle, Ellis Robinson? Why aren't the
receiver standpoint? It can't get any worse.
No, and for a cornerback standpoint, it really can't. I mean, Everett has, for a guy who I ragged on all last year in the beginning of the season, he has greatly improved. You don't really see him get burnt ever. Watch, he'll get burnt.
No, but he's not. He's not the most physical of tacklers either, man. I call it butt sniffing tackles, where we wrap our arms around and stick our heads in their asses and try to get them down that way. That butt sniffing tackles on the edge is a real problem.
But that second cornerback position, it needs to be figured out. And I don't know how much Ellis Robinson is going to play Saturday. I think he's gonna have to play some, especially if we have to play a nickel package, which I think we will. So I don't know. Something's got to be done with the cornerbacks. I don't know why Ellis Robinson hasn't played every time I've seen him play in the limited action. He's looked pretty good. So I don't know. And hopefully he doesn't transfer either. My God, who knows? Anyway, I'll touch on this real quick. In no world should I get, sometimes the game being between Tech, a slow start, especially it's the last game of the season. Your SEC, season's over. You've got the SEC championship on the horizon. I get it that it's a little flat, but there's no reason that it should take 8 overtimes to beat Tech. Not with the amount of resources that we have compared to them, the fan base and the money being poured in, the athletic programs, the university leadership. There is no reason why it should be ever this close again. And, Brent Key's going to try to keep it close, and he's going to do – he was boo-hooing in Kirby's arms. He's going to do everything they can to beat us next year in Mercedes-Benz Stadium. So, I don't know. It's frustrating that it was even that close. We're at Georgia. We do not lose to Tech. And we were inches away from losing the Tech, and we just don't do that.
Tech played well enough to win that game. They didn't, and that's the problem for Tech. And I'm not going to solve it for them, but they beat us. They beat us 3.5 quarters for damn sure.
Well, coaching also got them beat there in the fourth quarter.
That's what I said. We got outcoached for 3.5 quarters.
Yeah, they got way too conservative and weren't going to take any of the chances to kill us off. And this is the one thing I can say. What? Go ahead.
No, I don't want to get off track. I was just going to say, I know people are killing Kirby about, and it was hard to understand. And he said analytics and all that other stuff. But if we would have just kicked the extra point instead of going for 2 and ended up chasing points, I didn't fully understand it. But again, that goes to coaching. And Kirby knows way more than I do. But like I said, there were some things for 3.5 quarters that told me that Georgia was getting out coached. And then towards the end, we talked about it. whenever they went into second overtime and Brick
Yeah.
Key held up one. It was like, no, dude, you got to go for two.
Yeah. So here's the thing that I will give Georgia, and we've been kind of negative this whole time. The one thing that I will give Georgia credit is that they do not quit. They will play to the very end. That's against Ole Miss whenever they had no business of even being in that game as late as they were. Alabama, this game, Florida at certain points of the game. They do not quit. They keep playing through. And to that's really great. As a fan, that makes you feel good. At least the guys care. That's championship DNA. And
I agree.
This team, the ceiling, if they can put it all together, this team could be the best team in the country, can win the national championship. The floor, though, and we've seen the floor, I don't know how much lower it can go. It is really bad. So, but that's everyone in college football right now, it seems. So, who knows what's going to happen Saturday? We'll talk about that later on this week. I have no clue as to what's going to happen. It's hard to be a team twice. I know we've both said that. I have no idea if we get into the playoffs, what happens there. I have no clue. But this team still, with the ceiling and the talent and the coaching, and we've seen parts of the ceiling, not the full thing, this team could be champions, but there's got to be changes made this offseason.
Well, here's what I would say. I would agree with everything you just said. I think there's a championship DNA that and culture that Kirby has built. So we've talked about this a lot on this channel. People can criticize the culture at Georgia. They don't know what the hell they're talking about. That's the reason Georgia's won a lot of these games this year, is just grit and determination and unwillingness to lose. I agree with you here again. I've watched all these teams, Ohio State. I've watched some Oregon, and I'm just saying Oregon may be as good as everybody says they are, but I would say they haven't played that hard of a schedule. I'm not a believer in Ryan Day. I mean, why would you be? Talent-wise, they match up. In other words, I think Georgia matches up with all these teams. We have got to get on in some momentum. We've got to start feeling our mojo a little bit and start playing like we're capable of. And this team has not done that all year. They have not had, I think you said maybe the Auburn game is the most complete game they've had from soup to nuts. They have, but I would even say then, I mean, they're capable of so much more, and you just wait for them to pull it out, and then you see the ineptitude. But let's hope that we get all our stuff together, and now we realize that maybe we're in do or die situations, and we got to get on a run. And this team can get on a run.
Yeah, it absolutely could. And here's the thing: this is a whole new season now that we're into now.
Yes.
And so whoever's the best team in this little segment, I think you got to play 6 games. You could 5 potentially. This is a 5-6 game schedule, and you got to win every single one. So we'll see what happens. I think that will probably be the messaging as well from Kirby and the coaching staff. And by the way, the team responds well to that type of stuff. They did against Tennessee. That's probably the second best game they played.
I think Kirby before the years assumed nothing. You can't assume that just because you get in the SEC championship game, if you don't win this, you can't assume that you're going to make the 12-team playoff. You cannot. You can't assume any of these things. So all you can do, I know, Carson Beck said it. These are every game from here on out is a season in itself. You got to go 1-0. That's it.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. All right. Michigan being Ohio State, that's just funny. I think Ohio State's still going to get into the playoff. Georgia could potentially play Ohio State in the playoff now at home, which would be nice. I'd like that.
Yeah, that'd be a good scene.
And then the other thing is, you mentioned it briefly, Julian Humphrey, TikTok boy, Julio, whatever the hell his name is, doesn't matter anymore. He's gone, leaving the week before the SEC championship. I gotta tell you, you could see the writing on the wall because he disappeared after that Texas game.
Yeah.
His stats going way down, and Daniel Harris started getting more playing time. I know people are on social media right now, like, don't criticize the kids. These guys are getting paid NIL money, and they're, putting stuff on social media. When Kirby talks about guys being a cultural fit and being, guys that are coachable on and off the field, it's about how you handle your business off the field. This guy does not handle his business very well. I mean, he's all over social media and saying stupid shit. So I'm okay with him being gone. No big loss. So just keep that in mind. Georgia's going to have to go get cornerbacks. I don't even know, what our recruiting class is looking like with the recruiting.
I don't either, but I agree with you. Cornerback is a weakness, and that was always for many years a strength with Kirby and staff being able to coach them up. How I feel about Humphreys. It's unfortunate of the timing, of it. I don't know what he picks up by announcing it during this time frame. I think there's a lot more downside to doing it this time in terms of, your teammates and what that says about you as an individual potentially. So, but it doesn't surprise me, that he transferred. I think that we're going to see a lot more. By the way, we haven't seen Aguero either, have we? And as far as I know, he's not hurt.
Right.
So I'm just saying that you're going to see a lot more of this. You would hope that these guys can hang on till after the season. I don't know how much they pick up by entering it so early, but we got to move on. This is the age that we're in. So I hope he can land somewhere and learn something from all this, and I hope he, whatever. Wish him well, but I'm with you. No big loss. We got to move on.
Yeah. Here's the other thing. So a source, not inside source, but a source said potentially Georgia could lose up to 40 players in the transfer portal.
Wow.
I think it's possible. The SEC, I think the portal opens 12/9, which is Selection Sunday, I believe. Yeah, so right, or is that the Sunday?
I don't know.
Let's see. Let's do that real quick. Yeah, it's Monday. So I would not be shocked if you see it's right after Selection Sunday. I wouldn't be surprised if you see a lot of guys that aren't getting a lot of playing time leave, and then wherever Georgia's season ends, whether that's in Atlanta in the national championship or if it's in Atlanta in the SEC championship, you could see a lot of guys transferring and leaving. It'll just be interesting to see who leaves and who stays, and what we get in the portal as well.
I don't know, man. It's just when you got how many dress out on a home game? 85, 87?
It's 100 and then travels like 85.
Anyway, you're losing at least 40% of your team, right? So it's gonna, from a fan's perspective, it's gonna be really hard to keep up with all these guys. I don't know, but it is what it is right now.
Yeah, and things are going to change, and there'll be more restrictions coming down the pipe. But I mean, this is the world that we live in right now, and so we just have to deal with it and manage it and keep an eye on what's important and what's not important. So, yeah, that's how I feel about that. You got anything on that topic?
No, you're right. That's where we're at.
Yeah, that's where we're at. So we'll keep you updated on all that. Obviously, we'll do a Texas Georgia preview of the SEC title. Yeah, right now, as it sits, Georgia is a 1.5 point underdog in the game.
Oh, really? I want to be an underdog.
Yeah, I gotta tell you, I think Vegas is always right, but I think Vegas is wrong here. I think Georgia should be the favorite by 2 points. But
I don't care about all that. I like being an underdog.
Well, anyway, I think Georgia. I don't know what to expect. I just hope that Georgia plays competent, and we'll see what happens after that. So we'll break that down. We'll talk about that game this week. We'll talk about the playoff rankings whenever they come out, because now it actually kind of matters to see. But again, Georgia dropped 6 spots after losing to Ole Miss. Where does Ohio State drop? I have no clue, because I got to tell you, that's a way worse of a loss to Michigan at home. It's embarrassing. Ryan Day should be fired. I'm with all the Ohio State.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of explaining. I think there's going to be a lot of hypocrisy whenever these rankings come out. But
yeah, and then there's also going to be coaches changing this season, so around this time of year. So we'll see what that all means. Glenn Schumann probably going to be mentioned for a couple of jobs this year. So we'll see what happens. So we'll keep you up to date with all that and all the things that are going on this week. And then that'll be it, I think. We'll see. All right. Remember to like and subscribe, comment, follow us on all social media platforms, Instagram, TikTok, Julian Humphrey, and X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it now, Elon's Playground at Terminus Sports _ATL. And then our presenting sponsor, Unishippers, give us a pitch.
We work with small to medium-sized companies, helping them reduce their shipping costs and making their operations a little bit more efficient. So if you're shipping anything from letters all the way up to pallets, whether it's domestic or international, feel free to reach out to us and ask for Holland Martin, Unishippers Atlanta.
All right. As for Holland, shout out Holland. And we'll see you probably Wednesday next week. All right. See you.